2005 V6 Mustang. My wife was driving it. It's her car, not mine. And she calls and says it's broken. It just kind of shut off. She said she pulled over to the side of the road, and the fuel gauge went down to empty. The radio went down. Then the headlights turned off, and it was still running because, you know, the ignition coil is usually the last to go. But everything else, there wasn't enough power to keep it going. I was like, oh, it's probably the alternator. We gotta get a tow truck. I can't do anything. I don't have a trailer. And so we get it home, and the tow truck driver's like, yeah, I don't think it's the alternator either. But all the symptoms to me sounded exactly like an alternator. So I bought one, I put it on, and we'll see what happens. Okay, first thing I did, I undid the battery. Negative. Now I got a bolt here and a bolt here, and it looks like there's a little plastic like water dust shield. So we'll take that off. Okay, so take the little shield off, and if you do that, there's a bolt there, or a nut there, and a nut there. Take those off. Then there's one nut in there. I gotta take that off. Then we're gonna have to unclip this and then undo that. There's probably a little bolt behind the cap. We'll figure that out. Okay, the first weather tight plug, you wanna push this in. I took a screwdriver and pushed in there, because you can see there's a little tab right there that it hangs up on. So you gotta push this part in, and then it pulls out really easy. Okay, here you should have this little boot right here. Pull it back. No, I can't pull it back. There we go. And then there's a 10mm nut right there. I'll take that off. All right, now I took my air intake off, and all you gotta do is just undo this hose clamp and pull it back. So you got room to come in for the tensioner, which is for a 3/8 ratchet, and then you can pull it this way to slide your belt off. Those tensioners are just an amazing idea. Now we got this off, and we're going to pull it up. See how loose it is. Come out nice and easy. Here's the new one, here's the old one. Pretty obvious which is new and which is old. And that inner fan part is super rusty on this one. This one's nice and clean. You can see, here's where it was. Let's see if I could put it in there one-handed while I hold the phone. That would really be something if I can do that. Can I get some hoses in the way? That's in the way. Okay, I gotta push this stuff out of the way. Two hands at this. Okay, first thing I did is I put the belt back on, because you don't want to forget your belt pattern. Most cars should have a picture, but here there's no picture. So you could either take a picture with your phone before you take it off, or go look on the internet. And then when you have it, it's very important that you don't want your belt hanging over. You have these two grooves, it's supposed to fit in perfectly. Like that. You don't want it hanging over anywhere, otherwise you'll shred up your belt really fast. All right, I put that, I think it was a 10mm nut back on. Then I'll put the little boot back over it. It looks better, it looks better. This should just straight plug in there. There, you hear the nice little click, that means it's in there good. Now we gotta get that bolt in there, as I believe was a 13mm head. I'll screw that in. Then we got two nuts to go there that are over the hell like that the same. That goes there, that goes there. Now I'll tighten all those up. One last thing I need to mention, that 2 different bolts that go on to mount the alternator for the shield, for those studs that stick out. This one's got a flat top and this one's rounded. You want the flat top ones to go on first, and then the rounded ones to go on second, so they're on top. Okay, now the shield goes on. Shield fits nicely. Then you put the 2 with the rounded top. They're almost like a shoulder style. Tighten those down. Now remember, I took the intake off. Get to that tensioner, it's all the way down there. So intake, back on, slides on. Then tighten this screwdriver. Do that in front. This is really one of the easiest alternator changes I've ever done in my life. Okay, and unfortunately, my wife took the keys with her to work. I got my battery jump box charging. Oh, I gotta put the battery cable back in. As soon as she gets home, I'm gonna start it up, put the jump box on it, and take it off and see if it runs good. And take it for a drive, let the battery charge. Alright, end of the video. Just started it up, put my little jump box on it. Took a second to start up. And now it's idling perfect, driving perfect. It was the alternator. That's a pretty easy way to tell if it's your alternator or your battery. If your car is running perfectly fine and you turn it off and you try to turn it back on and it won't turn on, most likely it's the battery, because your car will run off the alternator. If you have a bad battery but it's running, I mean, it'll work until you go get gas. If you're on a road trip with a bad battery, it'll still drive like 600 miles on a full tank of gas. And then as soon as you go to turn it on, the alternator's not spinning, your battery's not charged, it's not gonna start. If your alternator's messed up, it's not gonna drive very far at all. It'll start with a fully charged battery, and then it'll go like 5 minutes or 1 minute and just completely die out. And it's not gonna die immediately. First, you're gonna like lose your radio, then you'll lose your lights, then you'll lose other stuff, and then it'll die. Usually the motor goes last. And your transmission's gonna be funky because there's got a lot of electric shift points.